It actually looks like you are.
Okay. Well, I can't reach William. Touch.
Leslie, it looks like the call-in phone number is in the meeting invitation, which was sent on the email.
But since I couldn't raise him. Welcome to the Ann Arbor Human Rights Commission. Let's begin with introduction of our members. Diana, you want to start?
Hi, I'm Diana Cass, Commissioner.
Aisha?
Hi, I'm Aisha Ghazi, Commissioner.
Linda?
Linda Winkler, Commissioner.
Pam?
Pam Dent, Commissioner.
Judah?
Judah Garber, Commissioner.
Elizabeth?
I'm Elizabeth Nelson. I'm a city council liaison.
And Julie?
Julie Grand, I'm the other City Council liaison.
Did I get everybody out there except William? William is a guest. William, you want to introduce yourself? Just quickly.
I'm William Hampton. I am not a city council member.
Okay. And I'm Leslie Stambaugh, and I'm the chair. We're going to start this meeting, as we always do, with public comment. And Heather Koch, is it Koch or Koch? Koch. Heather, why don't you introduce yourself and tell people the this call-in number and the rules.
All right. I'm Heather Cook. I am from the City of Ann Arbor Human Resources Department. And I am the guest admin for tonight, as you could say. And anybody wishing to speak during public comment, there's actually 2 phone numbers available to call. The first one is 877-853-5247. The second phone number option is 888-788-0099. And you will need to enter the meeting ID, which is 971-0416-6913. Anybody who wishes to speak at public comment will have 5 minutes to speak. And Leslie, I think we can just give it a couple minutes to see if anybody calls in, and it'll show up on my queue.
Okay, fine.
So it doesn't look like we have anybody there, but I can definitely let you know if anybody
Okay.
comes up.
Let's move on.
Okay.
The first thing on our agenda is we're very happy to have William Hampton, who is the president of the Ann Arbor branch of the NAACP. And he is here to share with us the official statement of the Ann Arbor branch of the NAACP on criminal justice, improvements, and race. William, take it.
Do I have to unmute myself?
We can hear you.
Is he unmuted? Wait a minute.
We heard you when you spoke earlier. I
Yeah.
think you need to unmute yourself. You do need to unmute yourself.
Can't hear
Well,
you.
William, if you
Here,
wiggle your mouse across your screen, there should be a mute button in the lower left corner.
oh, no.
Nope. Do you
My-
see anything if you move your mouse across the screen? Is there a toolbar that pops up at the bottom?
Mine is actually at the top right of my screen. If you click on the 3 blue dots, William, on the top right of your picture, it should give you an option to mute or unmute yourself.
We should be able to unmute. No, I guess we can't unmute if you.
Whatever you did earlier worked because we
Yes.
heard you.
I wonder if he hears us.
Or
Then he can
if you
hear us.
push your unmute in the bottom corner, it will pop up a blue thing that says unmute. So there's the little microphone under your own picture.
Under. Are you talking to me? Or William?
No, I was just, so either way, you can unmute by using the mute along the toolbar, or there's usually a red microphone with a line through it. And if you touch that in your own screen, it should also come up with a blue
Yes.
mute or unmute option.
Or if you have a laptop, you can press the space bar and temporarily unmute.
Oh. He's still muted.
I'm hitting the button on my end that says ask to unmute.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's popping up for if it's giving him anything.
Hi. Can you hear us, William? I don't know.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, I don't have a screen, so I had to guess at that.
Oh,
I have no screen presence on my computer. So
we
just so
can
you
see
know,
you. We can see you.
We
Well, I
can
know
hear
you
you
can.
too. You look great.
Yeah.
that's awful nice of you to say. Thank you so much. I guess the first thing I want to say is thank you so much for finding some time for me to speak to you guys. My fraternity brother from Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was supposed to be here with me. However, he had forgotten that April 12th is his anniversary with his wife, Mary.
Oh, dear.
So he's not here, obviously, right? But he did send a statement for me to read. It's a short statement. I'm going to read it to you. That's okay.
Sure.
Okay, it said, good evening. My name is Marion Huey, and I've been invited to this meeting by my good friend and fraternity brother, Brother William B. Hampton, as a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and the Annabel branch of the NAACP. Now, the reason why he was invited was because there's a memorandum of understanding on this project between Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and the Annabel branch of the NAACP. He says, in a strange irony, my relationship with Alpha Phi Alpha actually began as an act of housing discrimination. At the beginning of my senior year at U of M, a high school friend of mine and I reunited and planned to rent a room together. We filled out the application and were told to return in 1 week. When we returned, the apartment manager told us that the owner had determined that the room would not be rented to a Negro and a Jew. We were upset, but since I had neither time nor resources, I told Ron to find another roommate, and I sought accommodations in a house rented by Alpha Brothers on Oakland Street. It turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me. My relationship with Alpha Phi Alpha was cemented and eventually led to my meeting William in what has become a lifelong relationship. I didn't complain, although Ron and I discussed it, but I wonder if there are still those who, without time or resources, as I was forced to seek alternatives, are also faced with discrimination today. Ron and I had the sense that others were isolated in cases like this. Obviously, this is probably true. Otherwise, commissions like yours probably would not exist. This work assures that a citizen that he or she has access to someone to provide those resources in a timely manner so that they will help keep us as close to equal as possible. That's his statement. So I'm going to read to you the official statement from the Annabel branch of the NAACP. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes.
Still have no screen presence, but that's okay. Here we go. From my perspective, our most recent Ann Arbor NAACP meetings have been more revealing than ever. People seem to feel comfortable regarding their private thoughts and feelings. For each person who shared either at our meetings or directly to me, I am forever grateful. I have crafted an official statement from our branch, which includes thoughts along with information extracted from our recent meetings, feedback from the membership, along with a review from our legal redress committee, period. Each of them contributed to the formation of this statement. Our police departments are commonly known as paramilitary organizations. Some estimates state that approximately 20% of all police officers are military veterans. It has been shared with me that at least one study indicates these ex-military veterans are 2 or 3 times more likely to deploy their firearms than non-military officers. The number is even higher for those who participated in active military service. Is this something that we should continue to embrace for our police departments? It is our opinion that we need change in our entire criminal justice system. Our statement, intended to promote long-term procedural changes and not simply one-time only consideration, is as follows. The Annabel branch of the NAACP believes there should be widespread transparency in our criminal justice system, especially as it relates to race. You may have noticed that all of the recent high-profile incidents happened quite some time ago. so that's not exactly transparent. It is our position that negative background information for each of our public servants should be available for review. We believe that any negative incidents, including written warnings, verbal warnings, suspensions, mandatory leaves, complaints lodged against all law enforcement, to be available for review and/or action. It is our contention that bad police officers should not be dismissed from one location only to reappear in another jurisdiction. The Tamir Rice shooting in Cleveland, Ohio comes to mind. He never became a teenager, he was only 12 years old, because of the actions of an unqualified law enforcement officer who had been dismissed from another jurisdiction. Still, it took over 2.5 years for that one officer to be fired. We further believe that laws which allow for so-called citizens' arrest should be reviewed to allow for community input. Right now, I'm thinking about Ahmaud Arbery, his death while jogging peacefully in a Georgia neighborhood. Accordingly, all no-knock rules, policies, warrants where present should be reviewed and are eliminated. Who could ever forget the horror of Breonna Taylor's last few moments living in Louisville, Kentucky? Stand your ground policies should be reviewed for race bias potential. Let us not forget George Zimmerman's involvement in Trayvon Martin's death and his subsequent acquittal for that crime. It seems to us that vascular neck restraints, commonly known as chokeholds, should be eliminated. Many friends and relatives have lost their lives because of this so-called necessary technique. We further believe that all agencies within counties and municipalities should be reviewed for diversity makeup. All race-related cases, including those that have police connections which have resulted in death or injury, should have an outside review. Police unions, which I support unions, should be continuously evaluated for potential bias or misconduct. Additionally, it seems to me that police union contracts should be scrutinized more frequently than they presently are. Collaborations between law enforcement, prosecutors, and judges should have review mechanisms which include citizen input. It appears also that local coroner's offices may sometimes also be complicit in the death resulting from police involvement. In some instances, there should always be a mechanism for review by other independent evaluations. All of this may seem time-consuming, but getting it right is more important than time saved. Qualified protective immunity for police officers, although I understand why it's there, should be revisited with change in mind. I am told that this might result in higher insurance premiums for police officers, but we believe it is more important to have lives saved than saving a few dollars. We demand accountability from our law enforcement officers, especially when it relates to a life ended prematurely. It is not enough for law enforcement persons to take a life and simply say, I thought this was reasonable at the time. It seems to us if we continue to normalize bad behavior, it comes across in the same manner as us giving consent for that bad behavior. The Annabel branch of the NAACP will continue our partnership with Annabel Public Schools to educate and to recognize our children. In addition, we will be persistent in our collaborations with other entities for the public good. Lastly, we will vote and we will always work for the election of people who share our values. By the way, it pleases me that a good infusion of diversity was added to a presidential campaign recently. Some of this may appear unreachable, in terms of goals. However, I believe that if we reach low goals, the value of that success will be limited. It should be our ultimate goals to make law enforcement better than it is right now and to remove law enforcement officers, few as there may be, from the streets which we walk on. I believe that a more just and inclusive and equitable America is still possible. We appreciate the changes which have been made in our country. These changes include, but are not limited to, removal of Confederate statues, the names of bridges which bear names such as Edmund Pettus, who was a senior officer in the Confederate Army and a Grand Dragon in the Ku Klux Klan. That bridge name might be changed. Aunt Jemima's image has been removed. Boston has declared racism as a public health emergency. And the governor of the state of West Virginia is introducing legislation to make Juneteenth a paid holiday for that state. These are but a few recent changes, but we seem to be moving in the right direction. We have much farther to go. Everybody should be against racism. In response to the Black Lives Matter campaign, we have recently heard that the retort, all lives matter. Well, everybody knows that, right? It is correct that all lives should matter, but it can't ever be true if Black lives are marginalized. Therefore, it pleases me that my own city of Ann Arbor, even though they have received some pushback, is now proudly flying a Black Lives Matter flag over City Hall.
Yeah.
Our truly disadvantaged population who built this country will not go silently away ever again. African Americans who went from 100% illiterate to nearly 100% literate in one generation after the Civil War will remain diligent in the pursuit of total equality. Right now, African Americans are the most economically underserved subgroup in America. We are also per capita more likely to be victimized by the misconduct from our criminal justice system. None of this is by accident. We have been patient, we have waited too long and suffered too much to continue to believe what the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. referred to as the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Incredibly, this statement was delivered by him well over 1/2 century ago. We believe it is too late for us to take one step at a time. Everything should be geared towards immediate change. We are watching, we will continue to observe, and we will always be willing to fight for positive change. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there questions for William? We have a copy of what he's just read, and it'll be in the Legistar. It'll be in our minutes. We'll attach it to our minutes.
I have a question. William, hi, it's Linda Winkler, Henry's cousin. How are you?
Hey, Fonzie's cousin. How are you doing?
Are you reading this statement at an ICPOC meeting also?
One more time.
Sorry, are you planning to read this statement at the Independent Police Oversight Commission meeting?
I am, but I read this statement at Juneteenth.
Okay.
I've got several entities that I'm going to read it at, including the Police Oversight Commission.
Oh, great. Okay.
So as a lawyer, what advice do you have for me on this statement?
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, you've always given me good advice before, right, Linda?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you make a lot of good, reasonable demands, requests, and I hope if there's any particular way in which the Human Rights Commission can help you, specific things you can think of that we can do, I hope you'll let us know.
Well, we have one member of the Human Rights Commission who's a member of the NAACP. And it would be nice if we had more.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to call any names, but everybody's always welcome. And collaboration is always better than competition when we're fighting for the same cause.
Right. And we should read his statement and see if we can identify something we can do. We can help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else? Well, thank you very much for coming, and you've given us a lot to think about. We appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Minutes. Time to look at our minutes and get agreement on it, get them right, and pass them. Is everybody has a copy? Any comments about the minutes? Nothing. In that case, we can entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes from July's meeting.
Diana?
Second? I
Judah?
second. Yeah, I second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Minutes approved.
Hey, Leslie, after this meeting, will you email me who created the minutes so I can make sure that the final version is put in Legistar?
Created these minutes?
Yeah, for the July meeting.
Okay, I guess I'm going to. Who created?
Okay.
Oh, you mean the minutes, the minutes from last meeting?
Yeah, I'm taking the ones for this meeting. But...
Yes, I've got them.
Okay.
In fact, Kelly had. No, he doesn't. I'll send them to you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Asian community outreach. Aisha.
Hi, everyone. So, I've still had the president of the Asian American United Organizations, which is kind of an umbrella organization over various Asian American organizations in the nation, contact us about doing something around anti-Asian American sentiment and also kind of just taking a stance around racism in general. They want to know what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. So I've invited them to come and give a testimony at the next meeting where the president of United Asian American Organizations is going to kind of share her upbringing in Ann Arbor and what she's really working towards and how she sees us being able to collaborate. So she'll be attending the next meeting.
That would be good. Are you going to talk at all about the meeting you and I had with the initials? I can't remember. Naacp.
Oh, yeah. Leslie and I know it's a difficult one to remember. Leslie and I had a meeting with the chair of the Governor's Commission for Asian American Affairs, which is called the Michigan Asian Pacific American Affairs Commission, Naacp. And we talked to Tashiki, Masuka, and Denise Grimm. And they also asked, you guys have a huge number of Asian Americans in Ann Arbor, and what are you guys doing? And we had some discussion around what we could do and collaborating with them. I think it's also important for us to think about how we would connect it to a larger kind of strategy around racism and us taking a stand against racism and what that campaign may look like for various groups. So yeah, it was a good meeting. We're still kind of talking back and forth about what we can do.
It was interesting that one of the things they focused on was getting Asian Americans to answer fill out the census, and they've been very successful.
Yeah,
which is something that you don't usually think about that as a human rights issue, but in fact it is, and it might be wise of us to put out something that reminds people how important it is to do that, especially people of minority groups, because it is the basis of all kinds of things like aid. like everything, like how our allocation of resources.
Yeah. I think it would be something for us to think about doing something around. The census is coming to an end. I believe it's at the end of August, or they may have extended it because of COVID. I don't know if anyone knows.
I don't know, they actually cut it a month.
Oh,
So whether, I mean, somebody doesn't want us to know how many people there are.
yeah.
No, it's a month or so shorter than it was planned.
Yeah, I think around equity issues in general, you know, having people accurately counted kind of shows the breadth and the diversity of economic class and status within population. So they found that like the more Asian Americans respond to the census, the more clear it is that there were high levels of poverty, especially among Chinese Americans and Indian Americans. So I think it is something that we can think about incorporating into a larger strategy around racism and stuff like that.
Yeah. The other thing we learned is that they don't have, right now, they don't have a standardized kind of complaint handling.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about sharing that information, but they really don't have very much right now. They're really just getting off the ground, I think. Is that true, Aisha?
I think when it comes to documenting incidences of hate, yeah. I think there's always been a fight at the state level to ask like state entities to desegregate Asian American data so that people can figure out like, are certain religious groups being targeted more, or people of certain, you know, nationalities being targeted more? Maybe that might be South Asian over East Asian or vice versa. But instead, because of the way the census is categorized and has been for a long time, data collection hasn't always caught up with that. So everyone's kind of lumped together. So it makes response efforts and also makes like where money is allocated difficult to do in a strategic way. Mm-hmm. So they've had a fragmented kind of complaint, I guess, a fragmented response on how to collect even incidences of hate. Like the state has one entity where you can call in a number. Department of, I think, Hate Crimes or something under the Attorney General. Then City of Ann Arbor, I believe, has one. Different university. I mean, they're not all talking to each other.
Well, every police force and lots of other agencies report into the federal statistics that are produced every year.
Mm-hmm.
But no one does it very well.
Yep.
And some of these entities don't want they don't want to be known as having hate crimes, and so they call them other things. And that's been a problem for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that individual will be coming to our next meeting to kind of just talk about like, you know, what this means to them and how we may be able to tap into this.
Any questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
That's a community we need to work with more closely, I think. And this gives us an opportunity. Just a few comments about things that are going on that you might want updates on. The AAPOA collective bargaining mediation process is working, sort of. There was a meeting, I think, mediation a week or two ago, and there is going to be one, I think, next week. But it's just so you know, it's progressing and no one can talk about it. So, but I'm assuming people are wondering how that's going. Julie, do you? Anybody else?
I don't sit on the budget and labor committees, so I haven't been as looped into that. So it's not something we're getting regular updates on by any means.
Yeah, and I don't think you can.
It's ongoing. Yeah, I wouldn't.
You were looking like you had something to say. I don't know.
No, just like we're waiting, just like you're waiting. That was that look like, yeah.
Yeah. We're just reassuring you that it is happening.
Yeah. Oh no, of course. But these things take longer than everyone wants them to take.
That's right. Everything does, especially in this environment. Another thing that is going slowly but going is the trespass work we're doing. We're meeting with, I think, 4 people from the Community Police Oversight Commission, and 1 person from the community now, who used to be on the Oversight Commission and isn't anymore. And there are Linda and I and Judah and Pam, I think, on our side representing Human Rights Commission. And we've pretty much got a list of things that we want to talk about with the chief of police and probably city attorney, maybe city manager, a city administrator when we get one, about trespass. So we're zeroing in. Some people are showing it around to shelters and to housing facilities, etc., to see if we've missed anything. Now, when we will always miss something, this will probably always be something in progress, but we are moving on it. And it's slow too, because we can't get together it would be nice to do that in person, but we may have to do it virtually like everything else is happening. Just so you know, we're still doing it. The next thing on our agenda is the Fair Chance Ordinance, and it is, we'll see, but we think it's about ready to go. So let's look it over together and see if there's anything that needs to be discussed. Have people seen it and read it? Do you have any issues about it or any questions about it? Or have any thoughts about it? This is something, by the way, that Linda did a great deal of work on, and so did Margaret. And we also had some similar ordinances from other cities to look at. And this is what we came up with. Thoughts?
I just want to give Keita credit too. She sort of directed us to
Right.
Oakland and was it Seattle? I can't even remember now. And we used the Oakland model pretty much. I just sort of cut and pasted a lot of what they had to say, and then Margaret cleaned it up.
Is Keita still here?
She hasn't been here.
I thought I saw her. Thank you. Keita was going to talk to Fair Housing about to get an idea locally how important this would be for our area. But I haven't heard from her. Keita, by the way, is recovering from an accident, a car accident, and so she's not totally feeling up to herself. So this is something that what we hope to do is, if you approve it, you're approving it tentatively as a working copy. We're going to send it around to some outside people who are interested in this area. Certainly going to send it around to Aaron Suganuma, who brought this to our attention in the first place. Jennifer Hall, who is Ann Arbor Housing Public, I don't know, whatever she is. Washtenaw Housing Alliance, I think. Pam Kish from Fair Housing. Is there, and if there are any other people who you think we ought to pass this by, please let me know. Are you ready to vote on it? Or is there anything you want to discuss at all before we do? No. Then let's entertain a motion to approve it, at least as a working copy.
I'll move to approve it as a working copy. I mean, I don't think we're actually voting on anything, because I think we'll need some sort of resolution to go with it.
We will. Yeah. We will.
Okay.
And there may be some changes from when these people see it, but I'm assuming that's going to happen at the next meeting. So we have a motion Is there a second?
I second. I can second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Let's go on to conversion therapy. Another ordinance, a lot of work has been put into it by, again, wonderful Linda and Margaret. And I think it's better than any of the ones we've seen so far. But it does draw on a lot of other ordinances in other cities.
Can I say something?
Please.
So first of all, Margaret hasn't actually, she worked with us initially, but she hasn't really weighed in on this particular draft, which, so we really just sent it to her. Yeah, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? Right. So
she's busy.
She will get back to us on that. From the last one, which you might have looked at the last meeting, we didn't really discuss it. The things that have, the main thing that's changed substantively is that Leslie contacted some people in Florida and got a lot of information. And the city of Tallahassee bans conversion therapy not only for minors, but also for vulnerable adults, which when you think about it, makes sense, at least to us when we were talking about it. So we added it, and the definition is drawn from Michigan state law, which, basically defines, here I can read it to you. The definition that we have in the working draft refers to the state law, which defines vulnerable adult as an individual age 18 or over who, because of age, developmental disability, mental illness, or physical disability, requires supervision or personal care, or lacks the personal and social skills required to live independently. Also covers adults in foster care facilities and adults defined in the Social Welfare Act, which are adults in need of protective services who are, vulnerable persons suspected of being or believed to be abused, neglected, or exploited. So in general, people who are not independent, rely on other people. And if those other people were to choose to give them, to send them to a therapist, a conversion therapist, they wouldn't have protection against that. Of course, somebody else would have to probably be aware of it and report it to us. But anyway, we threw it in there for now, thinking that it was worth talking about. None of the other cities in Michigan have that. They're restricted to minors. And all the information we have, we've gotten from the law students and the other fellow we were dealing with, who's a professor of public health. They were all just talking about minors. So we haven't done any extensive looking into this. So does anybody have any thoughts on that piece of it?
I think it's an improvement. I like it.
Good. I think they need it. One of the things I found out from talking to people in Florida, who I sort of got to by, people referring me to people who referred me to people, but Florida had a lot of cases, and it became very visible in their newspaper, and so they came from this in a different way. Although some people think that we have a lot of cases too, and we just don't know about them. But so far, no one has been able to put their finger on it. But it's really a serious problem, and maybe more visible than we know, more prevalent than we know. And what's interesting, what I heard from them in Florida was that they had a $200 or $250 penalty, and and it wasn't even a criminal penalty, but it scared people and they left. The ones they knew about at least left quickly. And that makes me think that the penalty that we have, which is now, it's criminal and it's $500 tops. So I suppose it's as high, it can be as high as $500 per incident, right? Will be enough to frighten people off.
Well, I remember we're talking about making it a criminal misdemeanor, so it would be punishable by, I think it was up to 93 days in jail or a fine.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. The other question Aisha raised correctly was we probably need to take a closer look at the definition of providers or licensed providers. The definition that I used was the one that Stephen Postema had put in a draft way back when Margaret was gone. And it refers to Michigan, what is it, the Michigan Public Health Code, the licensing code. And it covers a lot of different things, including trainees and people under supervision. And but the question is, does it cover, other sort of certified practitioners? And I don't know, but I kind of think that the authority for this whole act comes from the ability of the city and state to regulate practitioners. And so if you go outside to say, like for instance, if you had a religious person who was certified by their church to provide counseling, the First Amendment would probably prevent us from regulating that. So it gets tricky, and I think that's probably why Stephen Postema referred to the state law on licensing, but that's another thing that we need to talk to Margaret about. And I asked her in an email, so we'll see.
So it is almost ready. And when we get those things dealt with Margaret, we're hoping to send this around also. And I should give you a list of people who we know to send it to, and you might want to add people to that as well. Pam, you didn't have your hand raised. Okay. But okay, are we set with
I think we should just wait to hear back from Margaret, circulate another draft after she weighs in. I mean, Aisha, Diana, Leslie, and I can see what Margaret says, talk about it, and then share it, I guess. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. If that is true, the only thing.
That's a process question.
Yeah.
Just in terms of when you're hoping for us to bring this to council, so you want to approve it, circulate it, and then get feedback, or draft, circulate, approve, bring to council?
Yeah, we need a better draft first.
Okay.
So
right.
draft after we talk to Margaret.
Circulate.
Then, well, maybe run it by the HRC, get their tentative approval like we just did on fair chance housing, I guess, and then circulate it to whoever might be interested. I don't know.
People like the Jim Toy Center, for example.
Right.
People like Michigan Equality and Human Rights Campaign, who have both asked for our copy, just to see, because they may have some changes. They may have some good arguments about ways we can make this stronger.
Also, the law students who helped us and the public health professor, we should probably include them.
Okay, just want to make sure I'm not neglecting my duties. That's all.
No.
Okay, cool.
Not yet.
No.
Just let us know when. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing I have on the agenda is the non-discrimination ordinance. And if you remember the last meeting, the question was asked about the 180-day limit, where the ordinance says that we can, that somebody should file an ordinance 180 days, no longer than 180 days from the time it happened or the time they should have known it happened. And that after that, beyond 180 days from the first time, they can't file anymore and we can't look at it. I remember that Keita made a case for that it should be longer, or that we should at least have a way to do a review of the incident, even if we can't do an investigation and the full Human Rights Commission complaint handling. That sometimes you want to learn from it, or sometimes you want to at least let the person air it and record the pain of the incident. That this would help. Is anybody having any feelings about this issue?
I think we should wait until since Keita raised it, should we wait for her to be here or no?
Would be fine with me. It's pretty. Is that okay with everybody else? I said we could talk about it at this meeting, and that's why.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, because I'd like to hear her flesh it out, because my inclination would not be to extend it, or at least not indefinitely, because there's a lot of reasons why you don't want to have something open forever. But I'd like to hear her. I'd like to rather have a discussion.
Okay. Well, then I'll leave it until the next meeting. Is there any new business, or any new business that we should deal with? If not, we can go on to Commissioner Communications. And Aisha, you had something you wanted to announce.
It's not really an announcement. I wanted to share that, I'm in charge of facilitating a virtual discussion for University of Michigan School of Social Work, and it's open to the school broadly and the public on racial equity in Washtenaw County. And they're asking for, links to historic documents, policies, and they've also asked for work that the Human Rights Commission does. So I'm going to create kind of a document of resources that we can share with participants. But I just wanted to say, if anyone has any sort of resources they want to share, something that they think I should mention, do let me know.
Okay. And I will make sure that you have the Non-Discrimination Ordinance and the link to our website and our flyer about how to file a claim.
Yeah, that would be great.
Discrimination, stuff like that. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else that we should deal with? Because it's early, but we could end this meeting quickly. Nothing? Well, does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Aye.
Everybody,
Aye.
be well. Thanks.